Casemiro has been one of Manchester United's better players this season. In fact, our stats when Casemiro is on the pitch is a lot better than our stats when Casemiro is not on the pitch. In the games we've started this season without Casemiro, we've not done very well in. And we all know that Casemiro's contract is up in the summer, and there's been speculation over maybe whether he'd sign a new deal. And I always said, well, if we can get him on lower wages, I think he'd be beneficial to keep for another year. I think he's a dressing room leader. I think he's an important player. And I think one big thing about Casemiro this season is he's playing one game a week, and when he plays one game a week, he definitely looks a lot better for it. But Casemiro himself has confirmed he will be leaving at the end of the season. He wants to leave on a high, and he's going to do everything he can. We're going to talk about that because there's two players that are set to follow Casemiro this summer and leave, and that is not Maguire. Maguire's also a free agent in the summer, but there's a feeling he will renew a deal at Man United on a lower wage. We're going to talk about Man United's transfer plan. Apparently, we're planning big for the summer, but believe it when I see it, is it a bit of PR? There's some updates on Kobbie Mainoo, there's some updates on James Garner, and some fresh links to Nmecha. I think Nmecha would be a very nice midfield signing for Manchester United, and some fresh links coming in there. So, hello, and welcome back to Alice Talks Football, and welcome back to your 10-minute Manchester United news, transfer news, and update roundup show. But I'm going to round up all the latest Manchester United news into 10 minutes for you guys. If you do enjoy today's video, feel free to hit that like button. And of course, you're welcome to subscribe down below if you're new and want to stay up to date on daily United news, as I do a video every day rounding up the latest Manchester United news in 10 minutes. I am out and about. I'm on the go today, but I saw this Casemiro news and I had to record. But I do apologise if there's background noise. There's a lot of screaming and shouting around here, and I've tried to find a quiet area to film in. But yes, let's talk about what Casemiro has put out. Knowing when stages come to an end. Knowing when to say goodbye when you feel that you'll be remembered and respected forever. 4 months to give my all for this badge and for our goal. Eternal respect and affection for Manchester United and its wonderful fans, forever a Red Devil. Casemiro came in after we lost 4-0 to Brentford, and he was a huge part of us finishing third, winning the Carabao Cup and getting Champions League football. He played a part in our FA Cup win, although he didn't feature in the final, but he played a part in the run-up to that. He had a bit of a fall-off when Amrin first came in. I remember that game. Casemiro and Eriksen versus Newcastle. Everyone thought Casemiro was going to be sold in the January. Casemiro was done. Amrin wasn't playing Casemiro for the first couple of months that he was in. And Casemiro could have done a Jadon Sancho. He could have stropped. He could have forced a move. He could have done a Jadon Sancho Casemiro. But he didn't. He just shut up. He watched players, play ahead of him. When you're a 5 times Champions League winner, when you've won it all, to see yourself on the bench at Man United, it must have not been easy. And he worked hard. He went to the gym. He worked so hard. And he fought his way back into the team. And when he got back into the team, he was actually very good. I think with Casemiro, when he's played 2 games a week, he's dropped off a little bit compared to 1 game a week. But that redemption arc from Casemiro was nuts. And I think Casemiro, I know it cost a lot of money. I know he had crazy wages. I know there was a period where he did drop off and was playing poorly. But I think all in all, he's been a successful signing for United, especially when you consider Man United signings. He's definitely been one of the more successful ones. I don't care what people say. Casemiro was a successful transfer for Man United. He's given us over the last 4 years, a class act. Love the guy and thank you for everything. He's a top professional. He's been mentioned as one of the best players in the dressing room, very professional, doesn't cause problems. And he's probably one of the leaders that we've needed. He's a leader. I think he sets a great example to the rest of the squad. He's won it all. And he was phenomenal in that first season. He's been fantastic, I think, this season. His third season was his best season for sure. I remember his first season when he got suspended for the Arsenal game. We noticed such a difference. Arsenal fans were celebrating when Casemiro was suspended. That's how good he was in his first season. He was unreal in his first season. There was a little bit of a drop-off, but I actually think that the back end of the last season, he had that redemption arc from about February to the end of the season, where he was really good last season. It's been so important this season. I think he's been worth it. Yes, it's crazy wages, but we needed a leader. You look at Varane, you look at Casemiro, we've needed those leaders. And I think it's all good going out and signing young players, but I want Man United to sign a mix of young prospects that are sort of 19, 20, 21, 22. I wanted to sign players from 22 to 26, I think is the ideal age range. But I don't mind signing the odd older player if they're, top of their game, like a Harry Kane, top of his game. I don't mind that if they're at the top of their game. And I think Casemiro and Varane have shown the importance. But who's next? Who's next after Casemiro? Because it looks like two more exits are pretty much confirmed for this summer. Andy Mitten's a very reliable journalist, and he said this. So Man United obviously have rejected loan proposals for Xerxes and Agate so far this January. And Andy Mitten said this on that. Clubs want to cherry-pick players for little to no fees. United are reluctant to do that. If a big offer were put in for these players, United would be open to discussing it. I think for both of them, their futures aren't looking great at United. It's expected that Agate and Xerxes will leave in the summer. The futures aren't looking great at United. What Andy Mitten is saying, and I like United on this, is they're in no rush to get rid of Xerxes or Agate. We could use them this season if injuries happen. So if people are going to come in and give us a nothing loan for Xerxes or a nothing loan for Agate, you might as well keep them as good squad options. They're not on very high wages. I like that from United. They're going, if you want Xerxes, go bid 30 million. Stop giving us this, little loan deal. If you want Agate, come bid 30 million. Stop offering this little loan deal. And that's told clubs, you can't just cherry pick United players on the cheap like you used to do. These guys aren't on ridiculous wages. And I think that's the right mentality from United. We're going to sell them in the summer, so a loan could help improve their value in the summer. But actually, there's no point we could do with these players. I still think there's a player in Xerxes. I think if he played it depends which manager comes in. I think with Xerxes, it depends which manager comes in. I think under the right manager, he could be quite good. I think there's a player there. Agate, I actually think he's used wrong. I think Agate is an 8. Agate is a liability in our own half. But Agate in the attacking half is quite good at winning back the ball, pressing. I thought Agate's last couple of games have been good. Look, you never know. Agate and Xerxes could have some Casemiro type rejuvenation and actually be really key from now to the end of the season in the Champions League run. And that would be amazing. That would be amazing. But it looks like they're going to be the next 2 out after Casemiro. But maybe they turn it around. You never know. I do think Xerxes depends on the manager. And I think Agate is misprofiled. But I think Agate as an 8 would be much better than as a 6. Maybe that's an unpopular opinion of mine. Anyway, talking of Maguire, obviously Maguire is out of contract this summer. Laurie Whitwell on if Harry Maguire could get a new deal at United. He said Maguire would like to stay. He can speak to foreign clubs now. United have already triggered his +1 last summer, so it would be renegotiating at a lower wage. Unless Maguire wants to go to Saudi or the MLS, I don't think there's going to be many clubs that would give him the wages he's currently on at Man United. Man United want to lower his wages, which is fair. I'm happy for Maguire to stay another year, but on much lower wages. I know he won't take too much lower wages, but I think if we can get Maguire's wages down a bit and keep him as a backup centre back, I'm happy for that. Maguire's important. He's still one of our better players. He's still key. We need his experience. We need in certain games. I think his injury record has let him down a little bit this season, but I'm all for keeping Harry Maguire another season. I just think that, yes, he's on 200 grand a week. He should be on a little bit less than that. So let's talk about United's reported summer plans. Now, Ben Jacobs says, I think it's going to be a serious summer for Man United. I hope so, but serious and Manchester United in the same sentence when it comes to the transfer window isn't always something I put together. I feel like there's always something we don't do in the transfer window that we always said at the beginning of the transfer window we have to do. Now, look, we can't do it all. We can't do it all in one summer. But I look at Man United and I think we need 2 big boss midfield signings. Yeah, and this is off the assumption Bruno stays. Bruno stays, 2 big boss midfield signings. Agate and Casemiro leave. So then I actually want, because we're playing midfield 3, not midfield 2, a third midfield signing like a James Garner, for example, that's a bit cheaper to be that third guy, or a João Gomez to be that third guy, who we could go and get in January to make something easier. We need a left wing and maybe a left back. Look, we'll see what Dorgu does at left back. But Luke Shaw is aging. We've got another year out of Luke Shaw. But we need a left winger and we need 2 elite midfielders and arguably a third midfielder for depth. And then we can look at centre back and then we can look at left back. Some would argue striker, but Mbeumo and Cunha and Sesko can all play there. Now, what's interesting is there is talk of bringing a midfielder in January. I think we should look at James Garner and João Gomez. It was said by Ben Jacobs that Carrick will speak to the recruitment team to determine whether they will need a midfield signing this window, with Kobbie Mainor's situation taking a turn. We can't use Kobbie as a BS excuse. I think they're using Kobbie as a BS excuse. Kobbie was open to leaving on loan, so then they start looking at midfielders. Now Kobbie's happy again. Oh, we don't need to look at midfielders. But we play midfield 3 now, not midfield 2. So Kobbie being happy or not shouldn't change the fact that you should be looking for midfielders. We need a midfielder with Kobbie. So yes, Kobbie's going to stay, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't sign a midfielder now. We play midfield 3. We need a midfielder for depth. And also, you know, if you're looking at the midfielders we were looking at on loan, and Didi and Loftus-Cheek, are you seriously telling me Man United, if Amram was still here, would have loaned Kobe out to Napoli and then loaned someone like Loftus-Cheek back in? I mean, you'd having a laugh. Honestly, if nuts. But I still think we should look at someone like James Garner in January. I think we should. Look at him compared to Casemiro. He takes the pressure off finding the two top midfielders in the summer, which will hopefully be Anderson and Baleba. But he's a good player. And the only central players that created more chances than James Garner are Declan Rice and Bruno Fernandes this season. And Declan Rice takes about a lot of set pieces. James Garner's been excellent. He's not signed that Everton contract yet. He'll be 15 to 20 million pounds. He's one of three midfielders we need, and we can get the two bigger ones in the summer. I think United should look at James Garner. One midfielder I do like outside the Premier League is Nmecha. Man United and Chelsea are interested in Felix Nmecha. He's previously said he wants to play in the Premier League. I like the guy. I think he's very physically good. I think he would improve a lot of the physical problems we have in the squad. I don't see us getting Nmecha, but maybe in the summer we'll have to see what happens. Chelsea obviously want midfielder as well. Apparently they're looking at Douglas Luiz. But I'd like Nmecha, and this could be one to keep an eye on. We were linked to him last summer. I think he's a good player. I think him and Slotterbeck are Dortmund's two best players this season. So I do like the guy. He wouldn't be my first choice midfielder, but it could be one to watch if we do get rejected by the likes of Wharton, Anderson, because I think he's got the physical levels we need. Anyway, thank you for watching today's 11-minute roundup. See you next time. Bye.